Sight. I'm joined by Ewan Currie of the Sheepdogs.
You know, when we started out, we were like three of us, you know, drinking beers and going out to see live music when we were 19. And we just kept going to shows and we didn't like the music. We were like, where are the bands that play the stuff that we like? You know, listening to like, you know, Zeppelin and the Stones and that kind of stuff. And then you'd go out and it would be punk and ska. And so we're like, well, maybe we'll start our own band and play kind of guitar riffs like we like. So it kind of came from just sort of filling a need, I guess. You know, I never think of it as like, I know it's like retro or whatever, but to me, it's just, that's the style that we like. It's a style of music from that time. And kind of like, you know, architecture, you know, when you talk about like mid-century modern design or like Art Deco, like there's just these styles that are associated with a certain time and place. And I just think there's a lot of people that are like us that like the style of that era of rock and roll, that kind of like 60s, 70s vibe.
That contest to be the first ever unsigned band to be on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine. Mm-hmm. I mean, what was that time like for you personally? I mean, of course, you know, you guys had been around for a while at that point, but to suddenly like end up on the cover of Rolling Stone, I mean, that's kind of moving up to a whole other level.
I know you can. Yeah, you got a great set, man.
Thanks very much, man. I appreciate your time.
Cheers, brother. On, thanks for having me on.
No, it's been one that we've been trying for a while. Me and Talisa to try and get the dates to align. So it's cool. We can get you before you head out with Larkin Poe.
Yeah, happy to be here. I'm looking forward to that. I'm getting on a plane tomorrow night, so
coming
over to your side of the Atlantic. Yeah, we're heading to Oslo.
That's a cool start. That's going to be a good one, man. So I'm here with Ewan of the Sheepdogs. Thank you very much for joining me.
Cheers, brother.
I like to start off, by taking a look at the early years of a musician. So take me back to kind of how things began for you. What was that first kind of moment that kind of made you want to become a musician?
Sure. My dad was a musician, more classical and jazz side of things. So I was familiar with music, and it wasn't like this mysterious thing that I, you know, couldn't get into because I knew that he was a musician. But really, like as a kid in the 90s, like guitar bands were still kind of on top of the world. You know, it was like kind of a grunge type of era. But I was also listening to older bands like, you know, Creedence Clearwater Revival and Stevie Wonder and that kind of stuff. So I always was very into, like, I was like a kid with a Walkman listening to tapes, taping songs off the radio, making my own mixtapes. I didn't really get my hands on a guitar until I was a teenager, so it took a while. I was playing like piano and clarinet, which I knew wasn't exactly going to be my future. So.
Did you, I mean, you spoke a little bit about a couple of bands there. Did you have, I think everybody growing up has that first band that's like, you know, this is my band, the one that they really connect with. Did you have one in particular?
Yeah, for me, it was, funnily enough, it was Chicago, the band Chicago, like a horn rock 7-piece band. Because I played clarinet, and so like I was, you know, I kind of like jazz and stuff, but like I wanted to rock. So, but when you're playing a horn and you want to rock, there's not a lot of bands that really cater to you. So Chicago were kind of like the one band that made sense until I eventually picked up guitar. But I love Chicago. They kind of also influenced the Sheepdogs because they have lots of segues, like their songs flow from one to the next. And they have these like suites of songs, and we've kind of done a lot of that with our records. But from there, it was like, you know, I just was all over the Beatles catalog. My buddy's older brother had a box set of all the Led Zeppelin albums. That's why I stole that for like a month and crushed that. Um, you know, blues rock and rock and roll and 70s rock. But like I love soul music, but it all kind of started like Chicago were kind of the gateway for me to kind of get out of like the contemporary late 90s and start looking back at like the old style, because that was, once I got into that I couldn't get out of it, and I still haven't gotten out of it.
Of course, the Sheepdogs has that clear kind of embrace of this kind of full retro feel sonically and aesthetically. Was this something that you kind of was aiming for from day one, or is this something that you just kind of accidentally fell into? Because I mean, you have quite a clear identity on who you are.
Yeah, I think it was accidentally on purpose, to use that phrase. Like when we started out, we were like three of us, drinking beers and going out to see live music when we were 19. And we just kept going to shows, and we didn't like the music. We were like, where are the bands that play the stuff that we like? We'd come from, you'd be at home drinking beers, listening to like, Zeppelin and the Stones and that kind of stuff. And then you'd go out and it would be punk and ska and metal and just that kind of stuff. So we're like, well, maybe we'll start our own band and play kind of guitar riffs like we like. So it kind of came from just sort of filling a need, I guess. And then we always knew that was the kind of stuff that we wanted to do. And, I never think of it as like, I know it's like retro or whatever, but to me, it's just, that's the style that we like. It's a style of music from that time, and kind of like, architecture, when you talk about like mid-century modern design or like Art Deco, like there's just these styles that are associated with a certain time and place. And I just think there's a lot of people that are like us that like the style of that era of rock and roll, that kind of like 60s, 70s vibe.
I feel that, I feel the band's kind of breakthrough moment was winning that contest to be the first ever unsigned band to be on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine. I mean, what was that time like for you personally? I mean, of course, you guys had been around for a while at that point, but to suddenly like end up on the cover of Rolling Stone, I mean, that's kind of moving up to a whole other level. It must have been surreal.
It was a very strange year. Yeah, we were doing these weird, contests, making content. It was sort of the early days of creating content for the internet, because it was a very much like an internet-based competition. So through the week, we'd be in New York City doing all these, jumping through hoops, and then we would go off on the weekends to play shows to try and make some money. So we traveled a ton. We didn't sleep much. We partied a lot. And it was really good because it just put us in front of tons of people, and that's kind of what we needed. We definitely grew a lot, but it was a very crazy year and very stressful also. But would I do it again? Absolutely. Like it's very much needed because we're a band that come from the middle of nowhere, and it was very difficult for us to generate kind of publicity or get interest in our band. So it was definitely a boom.
I mean, you mentioned there that you guys are kind of come from the middle of nowhere. To go from that to being on the cover of one of, well, arguably the biggest kind of music magazine out there. I mean, when you got that presented in front of you, did you kind of have this moment where you're like, this is happening now? Like, did you feel that kind of...
like 15 seconds? Because like I had to go do something else. We didn't really have a lot of time. Like I got to the end of that year. I think our last show of the year was December 20th, and then I just went to San Francisco for the holidays because I didn't even go home for Christmas because I was so burnt out, and I just kind of like had to go do something else. And it was a very strange year. But when you get an opportunity to really like take a leap like that, you got to take it. So it was, I've kind of like been reflecting over the years, but at the same time, like everyone kind of said, did you reflect on it that much? It's like, no, because I was trying to like make sure that this turned into a career, and it wasn't just like, well, we made the cover.
Yeah.
Job done. I'll just kick back.
So of course, jumping forward to where we are now, your latest album, Outta Sight. It's your seventh studio album. When you were putting this together, were you looking to kind of approach this album any differently compared to your previous releases, whether that be, in the writing or recording process?
It was kind of the least thought out process, lead up or during. Otherwise, it was made during the end, sort of the last year of the pandemic, and so it was like all that stuff of like, you're not allowed to do this or that, or we kept making plans to do things, and then the rules would change, depending on what the government was saying. So we made so many plans that we kept scrapping, and so eventually we just said, all right, let's just like record some music. So we did a couple of songs. It went pretty good. We did a couple more. And kind of without even really overthinking it, all of a sudden we had like 12 or 13 songs. So it was really not thought out at all. It was just very kind of chill, and we just set up in the studio and I would kind of throw an idea out there, and more low key, and I think that's exactly what we need.
One of my kind of personal favorite tracks on the record, a standout for me, is "Find the Truth." Could you talk a bit about that song and kind of how it came about?
Yeah, it's like I had the riff, or sorry, the refrain, "Find the Truth," in my head, both musically and lyrically. I think it was just like I was thinking about living in this very online time, and people always talking about like disinformation, fake news. Certainly COVID was a real like banner time for, people questioning what is real and all that kind of stuff. So I think that idea was just kind of running through my head. And then like musically, I was like kind of thinking of something in like a Steely Dan meets Thin Lizzy vibe when I kind of was thinking about that harmonized guitar riff. And I was kind of just driving around in my car one day when it came to me, and I was like, okay, great, I got this riff that'll go with that song. And but I guess like, the idea of like the truth, like my truth is maybe it's rock and roll. Like that's what I believe in, because it's the best thing in the world. So corny response, but it's true, man. That's
No. Of course, that like throughout the record and a lot of your prior works as well, you always have this kind of very, I don't know, kind of upbeat, kind of feel good vibe. Is this kind of something that you always kind of want to include in there, that you want to kind of put in your records? I mean, I feel you're kind of a feel good band.
I think so. Yeah, I like. I think when we started the band, we kind of thought I was like kind of bummed out and depressed at the time, and I wanted to sort of like, I liked listening to music that lifted me up and made me feel good. Like I remember driving around in my car, and I had a little Discman that I would connect into these little battery operated speakers, because my stereo got stolen, so I didn't have a stereo. It was part of a real bad time for me. But I had this terrible Discman plugged into these little battery speakers, and I would just listen to the Kinks, Something Else by the Kinks, and I would listen to Creedence Clearwater Revival's first record, which I think is just self-titled. And those two records just they would cheer me up. So I always, that connection to rock music that made me feel good, made me feel strong and confident. I wanted to be that for other people too. I love that vibe. And so when people come and tell me, if a record got them through something tough or whatever, it means a lot to me, because like I love that. Like that's what good rock and roll music should do.
At the time of this release, you'll be just about to go out with Larkin Poe. Of course, you've just released that joint cover of The Chain by Fleetwood Mac. It feels like you guys have kind of had a bit of a instant kind of a connection, a bit of a gelling. Like you gelled quite well on that. Did you feel that kind of vibe as well?
I'm glad you think so. I've never met them, so
never met them yet.
Yeah, in the spirit of internet collabs, I've not met them. So we're flying over pretty soon here, and then we're going to meet them in Oslo for the first show. But I'm looking forward to it. They're a really good band, and I like their music, and very cool vibe. So I'd love to do more with them, but looking forward to just meeting them in person. I think Yeah, I like their slide guitar vibe and great singing.
Was there a particular choice, like a particular reason behind going for the chain? Was that collab?
I think it was their idea. Yeah, we just kind of followed suit. They kind of sent it to
Mm.
us, and we just kind of filled in the cracks. But
Yeah.
it's a classic, male female duet.
Mm. When when you go out playing live, do you have a particular song that you kind of look forward to doing? I mean, maybe one for newcomers to look out for.
Well, we play a song called Nobody, which I love. It's just got a real kind of chugging, easygoing vibe. It
Mm.
kind of maybe my favorite song that we do. But also, we're doing this newer song from our last record. It's called Scarborough Street Fight. Um, here in Canada, we have a lot of the same place names as you guys have
Yeah.
in England, right? Because we're your offshoot or whatever, your offspring. Um, but anyway, Scarborough Street Fight. It's just a real, like I say this complimentary
Mm.
in a complimentary kind of way. It's a real dumb banger and just nice meat and potatoes rock riff. But it's so fun to play live. It's a lot of guitars soloing, and it's real fiery. And I think it's become a real crowd favorite over the last year. So I'm really looking forward to playing that. And I'm kind of like thinking in my mind, we used to end the set list with Nobody. Maybe we ended with this Scarborough Street Fight. We're
Mm.
gonna mix it up a bit. I can't wait.
Mm. A question I always like to finish on that I ask every guest. It's a bit of a hypothetical one. If you could tour with one band from the past and one band from the present, who would they be? Of course, over the years you've toured with, gigged with a few kind of amazing bands and artists. John Fogerty was one of them, I believe.
Yeah, my
That
hero.
must have been cool.
Yeah, was wild. He's like a guy that I've just grown up listening to basically since I was like 7 years old. So to meet the man was intimidating, but very inspirational. Okay, band from the past and a band from the present.
A lot, a
Okay,
lot of
from
people struggle.
yeah. Well, right off the bat, there's a guy. The guy I most want to see play live these days is a guy from England, James Hunter. Do you know that guy?
I've heard of his name, but I can't say I'm completely familiar.
The James Hunter Six. He's a real like kind of soul R&B singer. Um, Man, he has an incredible voice and just great vibe. And I've been dying to see him, but it just hasn't worked out because I keep looking at his shows and I'll have shows that somewhere else. And anyway, James
Mm.
Hunter Six. I'd love to watch that guy sing every night. He kind of sounds like Ray Charles, and it's insane. Um, from the past,
Mm.
it's a really good question. I'm tempted to say like somebody like the Allman Brothers or like Crosby, Stills and Nash, but I'm gonna go with Thin Lizzy because I feel like Thin Lizzy were never like quite at the superstar level in terms of like selling out like arenas or
Mm.
any of that kind of thing. And I think that always meant that they were like I felt like they always had to kind of like prove themselves. Like their lineups kept changing. But if you listen to their live and dangerous record, they're an incredible live band. And I think and they were always opening for acts like Bob Seger and
Mm.
the Stones and various other bands. So I think they're always like proving themselves, and I think that's really inspirational because I don't know, just when you see a band kill, it just makes you want to go out and do better. And it's like having a good band open for you
Mm.
makes you want to play better because you see them getting the crowd fired up, and you're kind of like, oh, I see how it is. I'm going to go and show you, who the headliner is. So I hope that we can be that band for Larkin Poe. I hope we get the crowd fired up, and then they come out and knock them down.
Mm. Do you feel kind of Thin Lizzy is that reason for that dual guitar? I mean, I hear that kind of that joint thing that you have in a lot of your songs.
Yeah, Thin Lizzy, the Allman Brothers. I mean, the Beatles have a bunch of songs where they do it too.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm just a sucker for it. I mean, I think the Almonds are the one we get the most, but Thin Lizzy definitely.
Mm.
Um, it's just a beautiful sound when you hear vocal harmony or guitar harmony, and it's not that hard to do. Like bands could be doing it, but I love that it's kind of become one of our calling cards, and I hope it always is.
Hmm. Of course, for those that want to catch the Sheepdogs on tour with Larkin Poe across Europe and in the UK for the select dates, that being Bristol, Glasgow, Manchester, and London, you can grab a ticket via the link in the description below. Thank you very much for joining me, Ewan. And,
Thanks for having me. Sorry about my stupid Wi-Fi bullshit here.
No, it's been cool, man.